Well, who would have guessed? People actually like owning their games. And that is clear by the fact that game keycards are already backfiring. Because we've seen so far that most third-party games released on keycards, and now we're getting reports that most third-party games on the Switch 2 are posting very low sales numbers. And the one game that is selling well, that is a third-party game on Switch 2, is Cyberpunk 2077, which is one of the only notable third-party games that actually released on the cartridge physically. So I think the correlation here is pretty clear from what we've seen. I feel like game keycards are not very popular even within, like, the casual market. I think there's just a lot of reasons why. Even just explaining to someone the idea of a game keycard, it's just pretty clear that there isn't much point to them, even to someone who plays games casually. Because it neither has the benefit of physical games nor digital games, while having the inconveniences of both. And while sure, some people do like having a physical copy of something, but the game isn't actually on the cartridge, it just loads a digital game onto your Switch 2. It takes up storage space, but at the same time, you will still need the cartridge to access it, so you'll still have the inconvenience of carrying a cartridge around, if you do consider that an inconvenience. Some people do, but it's kind of like the worst of both worlds there, and the only theoretical benefit to having, like, game keycards exist is the fact that they're technically a way of reselling digital games, and you can also technically get more deals on them at certain retailers and things. But at the same time, with reselling them, at some point, the servers are gonna go down, because you have to connect to the internet in order to access these game keycards. But once the servers go down, and you can't really connect to the eShop servers to download these games, if you got, like, a used copy of one, you won't be able to play the game. And I know what a lot of people are thinking. Some people may be even getting ready to comment, this might not be an issue that many people encounter. Which is a fair thing to say, but at the same time, the fact that that's even a possibility is still kind of anti-consumer. People should be able to play a physical cartridge years after a console's servers go down, or just any game in general. Like, I feel like that should be the absolute bare minimum for a game. Because, I mean, yeah, it's understandable that you won't be able to buy digital games anymore, but with an actual cartridge, I think it should be the expectation that you will always be able to play it. And this conversation also kind of goes into the ownership element of games, which is just a whole other can of worms, but I'm still gonna get into it here because it's very relevant to these game keycards. Because with these digital games, like, they're basically licenses to play the games. At least with virtual game cards and game keycards, you don't actually own the game. You just own a right to play the game, and that right can be revoked if you basically break the user agreements and terms of service. I mean, we really haven't seen, like, any clear example of, like, your access being revoked, but it technically is there. It technically checks to see if you own the game, like, every once in a while when you have certain games on the Switch 2. It's technically a thing that is still in place. And even the hypothetical of you not being able to access your games being there, that is still very dystopian. And we've already seen a very weird and almost kind of scary example of this with how the MiG Switch cards are kind of working. And I mean, yeah, I know you would be really stupid to actually use the MiG flash cards on a Switch 2 just with the preventative measures that the Switch 2 has on there, because it basically turns off all the online services on your Switch 2. So, I mean, that's one thing. That is just a really stupid idea. But along with that, people have noticed that the virtual game cards are basically kind of locked to the system. You're not able to load them onto your Switch or remove them from it. And you also have to basically factory reset your Switch as well. So it basically kind of messes up your virtual game card system, and the fact that that's even a possibility is just pretty unfortunate. And I know with game key cards you could just technically load it onto another system, but it's still the hypothetical of any weird thing happening with them and people potentially not being able to access these games because of the whole user agreement system that Nintendo has is just pretty dystopian in general. Like, even though the hypothetical is there, and even though we haven't really seen any real example of anything, like, really scary happening yet, still, the possibility being there is not good. It's like, we shouldn't even have the possibility of Nintendo preventing you from accessing games. That shouldn't even be a thing. So that's why I think not having complete ownership of a game is kind of problematic. So I think that's just another reason why the game key cards are kind of unpopular. That's kind of something on the end of like people who are a little more into gaming, not necessarily the casual audiences, though it could very well affect some casual gamers, but I don't think that's the biggest concern for them. I feel like the bigger concern for game key cards for just the casual consumer is just how inconvenient they are without having any benefits on top of that inconvenience. Like I said, there just really is not much of a point to game key cards other than the games being on a shelf at a store. I think that is mostly what they're there for. Basically, having retail space without the extra costs of actually putting the game on the cartridge. And I feel like that money that they're saving from doing key cards instead of like actually putting it on a cartridge really isn't working out for them. And I know that 64GB cartridges are more expensive, but I still think they would have been making a bigger profit than they are by releasing the games on the game key cards. I think having the full game, or at least for very large games that are like close to 100GB, most of the game on the cartridge would be a lot more appealing to people. I know a lot of people love to claim that the Switch 1 and the Switch 2's user base is mostly made up of casual audiences who just buy things anyway and just do not care at all, but I don't really think that's giving the consumer enough credit. Because during the Switch 1 era, there were a few publishers releasing games with the code in the box. Basically, a very similar idea to game key cards, like just so different publishers could still have retail space by not actually putting their game on the cartridge. And those were not popular at all. Like, they kind of stopped selling them after a while. And I know Split Fiction is a code in the box on the Switch 2, but still, I mean, in general, the code in the box method really didn't work out from what we've seen with the Switch 1. And I think that sentiment that people have is kind of extending into the Switch 2. Like, a lot of people are seeing what these key cards are, and they're basically seeing that they're not actually the game on the cartridge, and it's not very appealing. Like, I've seen plenty of casual gamers say that they don't like how games on the Xbox or PlayStation are just discs that only have a small portion of the game, and they just have to download the rest of the game like onto the system. Like, that, it's really not a popular idea at all. People like having something on the cartridge or just having it digitally. People like either or, not some weird in-between area. That really isn't very popular, and I really hope these third-party publishers realize that, because I think these third-party games would be doing a lot better if they just straight up release the game on a cartridge. And Cyberpunk 2077 is a clear example of this. it's selling a lot better, and it released on an actual cartridge. A lot of people want to support CD Projekt Red for actually releasing the game fully physically. And I really hope other third-party developers see the success of Cyberpunk on the Switch 2 and take after CD Projekt Red. But anyways, that's my thought on the current situation about the game keycards. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments. And anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. And make sure to check out my Discord server and Blue Sky if you want to. Stay perky!